Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and welcome to the Eddy Network podcast. My guest today is Mitchell.levy, who I met 4 or 5 years ago when I was on one of his podcasts, and we had a great conversation then. I'm very impressed with this man and what he has done as a leader, and what he has done in encouraging leadership in businesses and in communities. So, Mitchell, glad you're here, and thank you for taking the time to be with me.
Ed, it's truly my honor. The green room conversation we caught up was so rich. I was that made my day. So happy to be here.
Thank you, and I thank you for your support of me and the confidence that you've shown me over this period of time. So just know that you've made a difference to me, and I'm grateful for that. So
I'm honored. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about who you are. I could list all these things that are on LinkedIn as to what you are, but let's just say that you're a credibility expert. I'll just say that, and you're a coach, but give us a little sense of who you are, and particularly how you came to do this kind of work. What's that path?
We'll start with the who. The who. I've been happily married for 33 years. Lived in Silicon Valley for 35. I have we have one son who, in Silicon Valley parlance, is successfully launched, and he is about to be 25. And there's a bunch of stuff. So what I'll say, Ed, let me iterate a bunch of things, because I've had a parallel path where I've done multiple businesses at the same time. Right. So I started 20 professional services firms. I've sat on the board of a public company for 9 years. I've run 4 different CEO networking groups for a decade. I've created 4 different executive business programs at Silicon Valley universities. One of the companies that I have, actually, technically it's 4, but one of the companies is a book publishing company, and we have published over 750 books. And then most recently, I've been asked to join the Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches organization. So I've put on my executive coaching hat, and I got certified in a coaching methodology, stakeholder-centered coaching, lots of, let's just say, stuff. Now, who I am, this is a great sort of deep question, depending on how you want to answer it. So the person I was before July 2020, so when we met, the person I was is different than the person I am today.
Oh,
okay. And
want to hear all.
And I know exactly where that was, right? So the person I am, how I've grown up, the things that have helped make me who I am today are still the same. It's just the importance of some things versus other things. And in particular, as you know, what you were part of the 500 thought leaders that I interviewed to focus on this concept of what is credibility. So let's, I'm going to step back so people can, do you want me to go into detail and tell the story, or?
Yes, I think,
right.
I think
I could stop, because who I am.
More detail, the better we do.
I'll stop with who I am, and then you could ask questions. So okay. Who I am a person that learned a heck of a lot, and actually was given a life purpose that I sort of woke up and accepted in July of 2020. And so now I do what I've been doing. I do what society wants, some of the marketing cookie cutter stuff, and I'm carving a path to do what is on the path of my life purpose, which is really the cool thing. And it's what I want you to imagine is a scale. And for those who are seeing, I could for those who visually see it, the scale is one where you've got Credibility Nation on one side, and it's lifted super high, and what I call Dubious Nation on the other. And my goal in life is to tip the scale. And so for the rest of my life, it's tipping the scale between Credibility Nation and Dubious Nation. And unfortunately, those of us in Credibility Nation are losing or looking down at the weight that we're being pulled down on in this concept called Dubious Nation.
So let's define these two nations. So what is the dubious nation? Describe that for us.
So my the easiest way to say that is the opposite of credible. So
Wow.
the do you mind if I'll do a quick description of Credibility Nation, and then the opposite credible will be much more clear, right? So the what I found in the interviews when I was thinking about what it is, what are the characteristics, what are the values, it turns out that credibility is a way of living. It's a way of being. It's not a destination. It's a journey. It's your life journey. And if I'm going to describe it in words, it's the quality in which you're trusted. It's the quality in which you're known. It's the quality in which you're liked.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's world, and underneath those 10 different values have come out. And so it's kind of the perception that other people have in you. It's kind of the perception you have in yourself. And so credibility is as a classic example, you knew when you booked me on the podcast, I'd come early.
Yes.
Because that's showing you respect.
Right.
And subsequently I'm early, and we had a little bit more time in the green room. Okay.
Right.
If you and I did a deal, we'd never have to have a contract. We just shake hands. Even if we're not ever in the physical same room together, we will virtually shake hands, and we'll do whatever it is that we are expected to do.
Right.
That to me is a way of living. That's what credible is. The opposite of credible is dubious. And the reason I picked the word dubious or Dubious Nation is that in terms of creating the way we live in life is we want good and bad, right? And so I wanted and needed an arch rival to this concept called Credibility Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've described Credibility Nation, as you know, I described it in the book that I did. I describe it, or it's people live it in the membership community that we have. And the opposite is the reason for dubious. And I also, by the way, I described this. I don't know if you knew this, but I probably do. I did a TEDx in 2021. I'm sorry, in 2021? No, 2021, right. The year afterwards. And it was the 28th most popular. It's called We Are Losing Our Humanity. And I'm tired of watching it happen.
So on my list to ask you about that.
Oh, okay. We just crossed the 500,000 mark of views, which is kind of cool. And what I say in there, what I want to say at the moment is we always think of the world as really bifurcating, good or bad, black or white. In the US, unfortunately, red or blue, heaven or hell. And the answer is there are times in which things are really gray. The reason I love the word dubious is that it's not necessarily like you're not going to hell if you're dubious. Well, it depends on what you do in the dubious area. We may wake up every day, like for instance, because of who you are and what you do, you probably don't curse a lot, or maybe you don't curse at all.
Never.
And if I accidentally cursed, which I do sometimes, that would be dubious. And so I will do my best, knowing and remembering who you are, not to do that. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means I slipped and wasn't thinking about the setting and context I was in. What happens, and by the way, thanks for the reinforcement of who you are, when you said never. And so what happens is, if I do something dubious and I step into that, either do I self-correct or do I have an accountability partner that puts me on the right path? and it's what I do when I hear that. So my focus is to lots of it is education. Like, what is credible? How do you wake up in the morning and live, breathe, act credibly? And I will give you a concept that really makes sense. And I'm going to give you the concept of legacy.
Hmm.
We often think of this concept of legacy as we have a plaque on a wall or on a bench, or we own we have a college or university named after us, depending on our size of legacy. And I'm going to say that's hogwash.
Hmm.
Legacy is how people remember you today. Legacy is who you are and how you show up in the world today, and the feelings that you create with those around you. And so legacy was you remembering back in 2019 our conversation, and that you wanted me
Yeah.
as some of the first on the show. That's a Mitchell.Levy legacy, because I was just living who I was, and I had an impact and you remembered. That's what everyone, if you're listening right now, you could be living your legacy this moment in terms of who you want people to be, how you want people to remember you, how you want them to feel during and after they've had an encounter with you.
Well, a couple of things about that. One is, I've been on a number of podcasts, and as at this point, you're the only one I've actually reached out to ask to be on my podcast. For I don't need to go into why, but it has to do with credibility, authenticity, that sort of thing. But let me tell you why I think what you're telling us is really important, and I'm going to illustrate it with two stories. So in the fall of 2020, I moved away from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where I live. Moved back to North Carolina. I'm about 45 minutes from where I grew up. As close as I've been since I was 18 and went off to college. So I left, and I've been traveling the world, living all over the place ever since. In January, I went to the memorial service of a classmate of mine from high school, and we were there for an hour and a half, and it was nothing more than people, one person after another, coming up and talking about the effect that he had had upon their lives.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there wondering about my legacy. So I'm using that terminology. I use that terminology as well. And I'm wondering about my legacy as to, would there be anyone that would walk up and say something about me at my memorial service? And this guy Buzz, he's a regular guy, but everybody knew that if they needed him, they could go to him, and he would help them, and whatever that meant. And I was and it drew me to the realization that some of us are meant to be in touch with the entire world, and some of us, and most of us, are meant to be rooted in community, in their local communities, and they never left. Bud never left. Sunday, I went to another memorial service for another classmate. We had played football together. He had he didn't finish high school. He got into some trouble, ended up in jail, and served time in prison. Came out, started his own business, and he basically was mowing grass and trimming trees and bushes for people the rest of his life. I mean, he's my age. And the people that came talked about him as this servant person. They weren't talking about the time where he was in a tragic state of criminality. They talked about who he was after that, and that he was this person that we all knew in high school. And he had a kind heart, and he was caring for people, and so that's another case of, here he was rooted in community, and the people in his community remember him. And I think that's his credibility. I think the dubious side of that is sometimes we get confused about who we are, and we end up not being very credible or very authentic.
Yeah. And you know what happens, unfortunately, is we're when we let's say we have something going on. I got this new you're writing for Stack, right? So I've got this thing going on and I'm Substack, right? So I've got this thing going on. I have this many subscribers and I want to go from this number to that number, right? So you ask a friend and the friend looks at you and says, yep, I've done this and this will work. Now, that friend may or may not be telling you something that is credible.
Mhm.
And you go, wait, I can go for this. Now, Ed, you're going to go, wait, this is dubious. I'm not going to do it, but thanks for telling me. Most humans are going to go, wait, I can go from A to B and I could do it quicker than everyone else. They ignore that what they're being told is dubious. And by the way, what they're being told, depending on their age, could be from their grandparents, could be from their parents, could be from their close friends. And their close friends are not evil. Their close friends are just doing what they've been taught. We just haven't put this around the concept of living your legacy and living in a credible way. And so we're passing along what we call wisdom, just that wisdom has components of dubiousness in it. That's how we end up going down a path of doing things which are not credible. And it's always this, it comes down inside. You can't be credible externally to your credible internally. And credible internally, you need a value system and approach
So,
that.
so in a sense, you're saying that as we travel this path, there's a lot of uncertainty, even about the things that are credible, and that we have to search and we have to work it out and we have to practice it and we have to continue to stay alert. I mean, I think this is what, I mean, and I mean, our listeners and our viewers today, this is something that you can do. I mean, this is why I wanted Mitchell to come on here, because he's talking about things that you can do. This is not just a trite little marketing thing that he's going to sell him some book. No, this is really truth. This is real wisdom about the way things actually work. And when I was telling you in the green room week about the growth in subscribers about Substack, well, the only thing I can attribute it to is my commenting on other people's Substack. That's how people find me. They're not coming to me because I'm the one that's writing. They're coming because I'm writing on someone else's Substack, and they say, "Oh, he has something to say. I'm going to go check him out." So it's that kind of networking that goes on, that, both on a personal level, but also kind of on an intellectual level. We're networking, we're connecting, we're bringing things together so that we can make sense of things. And I think when it makes sense, then it becomes credible.
Oh, can I share a word?
Yeah.
So what came out of the interviews were a number of different things, including updated definition of credibility. My most favorite word is the one you just mentioned. So you did something, you applied a technique to grow your Substack. What I'm going to say is that technique is called cred dust. You were spreading other people's cred dust. And I spelt it CREDUST. And what it is we all do this. Many of us do this naturally. Some don't. But what that is sharing other people's ideas, thoughts, and wisdom. And when you share other people's ideas, thoughts, and wisdom, by the way, this is opposite the way we've been taught. We've been taught, by the way, if we're looking to sell business, we don't ever mention our competition. We don't ever mention other people who have done things good. That's the way we've been taught.
Right.
That is full of dubiousness.
Yeah.
So if you care about your customer, if you are a servant leader and you're there to serve, you want to present your prospect with the best choices possible, which may include not just you, but your competition. And when you spread cred dust, hey, listen, let me tell you about the 4 of the people you could hire in addition to me. And these are good things about the other 4. And this is a good thing about me. Tell me what you like. If you decide to use me, you're going to get these results. Well, if I'm in the receiving side of this, I'm going to love the fact that that person spreads the goodness of others, and I could choose. And if it wasn't meant to be, if somebody else's goodness is better, it wasn't meant to be for me to be with this person, but I will remember them even if I don't use them.
Right.
So you were spreading cred dust. That's why you've been growing.
I think so too. And when you comment on someone else's Substack or on their YouTube channel or somewhere, it's 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 a way of saying I like that person and I'm bringing my credibility to elevate theirs because I want other people to see what they're saying, and I really like what they're saying. So and we may not have any real substantial credibility, but we still have something to offer in that way, and that I think that's a way to do that. So tell me what I mean. You've got all these businesses and you've done all these different things all these years, and so what I would like to know is for someone who is kind of at the beginning of realizing that they have some credibility to share with the world, uh, how do you talk to them about the networking of that with other people and with other places and businesses and that sort of? How do you talk about that?
Ed, do you mind, because you had prepped me in a green room that you're talking about networking, and because the way you asked that question was so open-ended, do you mind if I ask you for a little bit of clarification? Where would you like me to focus? Because that's I could take that in so many different paths.
Well, I talk about people taking personal initiative to create impact, and so they're looking to expand their impact, and so they're looking for who is it that I need to go meet, who is it that, and so my little line, the line that I use is, who do you know that you think I should know, and would you introduce me? So that's the kind of the entry point of building a network, because I'm assuming that any one of us, as we begin to create a network, we don't actually know who we need to know, and that we're going to take the people that we already know and we're going to trust them, trust their credibility to say, would you connect me with someone that my classic example is in the mid 90s, our family moved to North Carolina, and I went with three names given to me by three people, says, when you get there, go see these guys. So I called them up. I said, so and so says I should come see you. So I went to see them and I said, this is what I'm interested in doing. Who do you know that you think I should know? And would you introduce me? And each of those guys gave me between 10 and 15 names and phone numbers. I called all them up, went through the same thing. I continue to do that. So it's kind of building a network of people who then become resources for us as we go through life. So that's kind of the context that I'm seeing. Is that helpful?
Yeah. All right.
So let's put this in the context. I'm going to go start to build my network. So what should I do?
Yeah.
Let's
Interesting.
start there.
So I'm going to ask an open-ended question for the person who's watching or listening, and that is, do you feel in your heart you know what you need to do, you just haven't been able to articulate it yet? Mm-hmm. Okay, those are two. So I'm going to break that in half. If you're in your heart and you need to do something and you have no idea, when I say something, you know there's something out there, you don't even know what it is. Okay. And I'm going to put that I'm not going to talk to that audience. Although what you just said is important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to the audience who says, I know what I need to do, I'm just not sure I can articulate it yet, and who to surround myself with. I want to talk to that audience. There's only because we have limited time. So I just decided to pick the audience to talk to. And the first thing I want to do is say, we end up spewing out all these words when we talk to people and they say, who are you? And sometimes we spend 5, 10, 15 minutes trying to describe all that stuff we are. And a lot of times one of the people who have entered our vocabulary, our culture, is a guy by the name of Simon Sinek, who helps you understand your why. And I'm going to say why is important, and it's not as important as the who and the what.
Mhm.
So I'll tell you why. The why is 100% about you. What is your why? It's very self-serving. And to me, I truly believe we've been put as humans on this planet to we thrive better in community. We thrive better as servant leaders, being of service to our community, whether it's a local community or, this is the cool part with today's technology, whether that community is virtual across the world. We thrive better that way. And so the concept I have, I call this a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities. If you can articulate in less than 10 words the who you serve and the what is it that they need service on. So it's either what is their pain point or what is their pleasure point. And if you can articulate that in less than 10 words, that's what came out of the interviews for me. What got me on this path moving forward is that 98% of the thought leaders I spoke with could not articulate who they served and what is it their audience needed in 10 words or less.
Right.
Because if you could present that playground, so now, by the way, the path you took is great. The path I took, same, it's about talking to other people.
Right.
And when you get to talk to other people, and I have a friend, a guy by the name of Peter Stropel, and in Peter's community, in Peter's world, he'll give you a name. You call up that other person. Your job is to say, Peter says he loves you. And if you say Peter says he loves you, the person on the other side just drops and listens. Same thing. When I introduce others
I
to,
like that.
he asked me to borrow this. So when I introduce people to other people who really know who I am, I say, hey, say Mitchell says he loves you. And then that means you're supposed to listen and pay attention. And there's something valuable there with that connection.
Yeah.
Now, the coolest thing you could do is present, if you don't know how, and at the moment, by the way, my bigger goal of tipping the scale, credible and dubious, I know things I'm doing. I don't know the end result. This is a big task, right? So I want to say, here's the bigger goal. Here's some techniques I have, and tell me what this means to you. And is there something there that resonates with you? And I like co-creating with other people. So when I'm listening to people, I'm listening to their pain points. I'm listening to their pleasure points. I'm helping them articulate their CPOPs. And I like to be of service in every interaction I have with other people. And because I want them to remember, if I could do something of value to them, they may remember when I have my ask. And my ask might be, hey, what's next? Or this is what I'm doing today. Is this something you might be able to help me with? Or I'm not sure what I should do tomorrow. Is there something one of the best things, if there's somebody who lives an abundant life, and you say to them, they understand who you are, and say, hey, is there something you've got that you just isn't getting done that you need a little bit of support with? I've done that so many times in my life. And you can do that when you meet people and they see you, not they see the cookie cutter marketing approach of you,
Right.
but they actually see you. For me, Ed, interviewing 500 thought leaders, I thought I was doing it. This is my self-described Napoleon Hill journey. I was under the impression that I was doing this to create a book. I did get the book. That's the book you see behind me, Credibility Nation. I got the book. I got a membership community. I got a TED Talk. But put on all that aside, I got a life purpose. And that was a gift I wasn't expecting. That was a gift that slapped me in the side of the head so many times throughout the interview process. But it was really month 11 of the 12-month journey I was on.
So
And it was for me, and it was the recognition that 98% of thought leaders that came in the door could not articulate in 10 words or less the who and the what. And I'm like, and I happen to be really good at that. And I also know I could teach others how they could be good at that in serving others. And if there's a small subset of something you could share with other people that they don't know, and it's universally known and recognized or needed, it just means we haven't been taught this.
Right.
We haven't been taught this. What I recognize is, what else about credibility have we not been taught? As an example, showing respect is coming at least 3 minutes early to somebody's podcast, at least 3 minutes. In the interviews, 23% of the people I interviewed came late. They came within the 3 minute part of a live show. And I'll leave with one thing that always surprises me. So here I am. I'm interviewing 500 thought leaders over a 12-month period. I had a show in which I'm going live at a particular point in time, and 4% of 500 people. So that is 20 people. 20 out of 500 people came after the start time of their live show.
Oh, my.
So just for the audience, I want you to listen to this.
Wow.
You're being interviewed by the global credibility expert on your credibility, and you think it's credible to come after the start of a live show.
Oh, my.
And and when you hear that way, you're like, huh? People really did that? And yes, and these are some really, what I would consider, what the world would consider credible people. And what happens is they were taught the dubious lesson that credibility is having so many meetings in a day, back to back. And if you're giving one person service and it runs late, then you're going to be late to other people.
That's right.
And the thing is, that's not credible. That's the opposite, because you may be credible to the one person you're with, but you're dubious with everyone else.
My my rule of thumb is be the first one there and the last to leave. And that way I get to probably talk to everyone that arrives at an event, and you never know. You just never know. This is really fantastic, and I think what you're doing is really important. I have one more question that just popped in my mind. This transformation that you went through in July of 2020, was that of a different level of quality than any other transformation that you had gone through during your life? Or was it like the next series of transformation that is really the ultimate story of your life?
That's a really good question. I think for those who have known me for a long time, I've had many different, in Silicon Valley, we just call them morphs, where we morph from one person to another, right? I've morphed at least 4 or 5 times. One of the biggest that seemed natural to me was in 1997, when I left the corporate world and became an entrepreneur.
Right.
And this was different. This was different because I never, although many of the things I did, I ended up serving, being good, being credible, being of service to others. This one was broader. This is a, tip in the scale between credible and dubious. That's a billion, that's billions of people transforming. That means businesses, that means religious institutions, that means governments. This is huge, and
Everything.
this is everything. And I don't know the answer. I just know how to be today. And so for those who it was such a huge transformation, I did it with the approval and support of my life partner, of my spouse, my wife, because this is big enough that I needed to let her know what I'm seeing, and is she okay with that, right? And that's, you want a happy path with somebody else. When opportunity knocks and you say yes, if it's big enough, you got to say, hey, this is what I see. What do you think?
I asked the question because I find that those of us who are shall we just say, at an advanced age, can have a second life or a third life or a fourth life. That we don't coast into retirement and then into the last stage of life. Actually, it's like my high school track coach says, you run through the finish line, not to it. And that's what I heard you saying. And here, I don't know how old you are, but I hear you saying that at this stage of your life, you found something new that's going to carry you through another stage of your life, which can be even more significant than everything you've done prior to this. And that's the experience that I've had in the last 5 years.
Nice.
And I'm wondering if this is not going to be, I'm a pattern recognition guy. So I'm looking to see if this is going to be a pattern that we're going to start seeing that really becomes another way of seeing our culture, the culture of the world, becoming much more dynamic and healthier than it has been. Because some of us who are, as my friend Trevor Waldock says, he's all into being elders and of imitating Nelson Mandela. I mean, he's all about that. So it's something that I think it's worth kind of pondering and thinking about. So how do people find you? What's the best way to find you?
Oh, do you mind if I address what you just said?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd love.
No, because you threw it up there. My undergraduate degree, which is surprisingly one of those things that I actually use, is in stochastic and deterministic models of operational research,
Oh
which
boy.
basically means I was taught how to recognize patterns on systems and people and improve them. Right. So first of all, I want to say retirement means the casket, whether it's a casket or an oven or whatever it is for you, right? Retirement means you're dead. And the dubious nature of what we've been taught around the world is that we get a job. We don't have to love our job. We have to work and make money. And at some point in time, if we work for whatever the man is, we will reach a retirement age, be able to retire and do the things that we really want to do in life. And we've potentially squandered our youth to do some of the things that we could have done then. That is the dubious lesson of nature that we've been taught. First thing you have to recognize
Yeah.
and that's the coolest part. I mean, that is a benefit of COVID. COVID basically took the sheets off the eyes of everyone who is looking at what they were doing. And my cousin, who's in New York, that had a 2-hour each way commute to her job, recognized that she didn't like to do that. And for decades, this was normal for her and she thought it was okay. Right. So we've been woken up. The gift of COVID is we've been woken up to see the world in a way that's more powerful. And the gift that you need to give yourself is, how can I be the servant leader I want to be in the future? How can I do that today? And if you
Absolutely.
just think about that, that will change everything.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I mean, we have what we've talked about today is really important, and it's not just two guys who happen to be similar chatting about things that they know something about. No, this is really about the bigger picture of where our world goes, and each one of us has the opportunity to build that legacy that you talk about and be credible. And I think maybe the starting place is, what is dubious about my life, and can I find, maybe this is where the networks are, can I find some people who can tell me what that is in a kind, respectful, trusting way.
Hmm.
And that's the accountability that you mentioned.
That's interesting. I'd love to see, that'd be a fun study to have 30 people ask, actually 60 people, 30 of them ask their networks, what's dubious about my life? 30 of them ask their networks, what's credible about my life, and see what the end results would be. That would be a great study.
That would be. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Okay. So how do we find
All right.
you if we want to have more conversation with you?
So my name is Mitchell.Levy. And one of the best ways is just through my website, mitchell.levy.com. So that's 3 L's back to back. And I'm also available on social media. The primary one I play with or hang out on is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But so it's mitchell.levy.com. And from there, there's lots of different places you can go and things you could learn, including if you're inclined enough to get time on my calendar, you can go directly to my calendar and book time.
We will put all that in the show notes so that if you want to talk with Mitchell, you can. And I encourage you to do so. And thank you for doing this. This has been a real treat, and I'm honored that you came on. And I look forward to kind of staying in touch and seeing where all this will go in the future.
Me too, Ed. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. And I'm honored to be here. And it's really it's a powerful place you are at, and igniting the spark in other people is a really beautiful legacy to be able to move forward with, and that's the path you're on. I love it.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. Please subscribe, like, and in particular, please comment, share your thoughts, ask your questions so that we can be in conversation with you, because that's very important. That's why these things matter. And by you sharing your voice with us, we begin to build a culture of conversation that is really valuable and important for the future of our world. So thank you all, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.